Hey, everybody. Well, I'm back with someone you should know, and it is truly an honor, a privilege to get to have a conversation today across the globe with someone who's become a dear friend of ours and of Restore Sevens, Shlomi Harazi. He is an Israeli citizen who was a tour guide for us on our last tour, which was last summer in 2023. Every year, I think it can't get better. And that's how I feel about our last tour. On that particular tour, we had about 170, 175 people that went with us. And so Shlomi was one of four guides that we had. It was our first time interacting with him, certainly not his first time, which became obvious. But he quickly became a favorite of those that were with him every day. And then we all kind of switched it up and got to interact with the different guides. And he became a favorite of everybody's at that point. So when the October 7th terrorist attack, the invasion really on Israel, happened, we quickly reached out to anyone and everyone that we had any kind of personal connection with there, just to see, how they're doing and see how we could, as a ministry, come alongside of them and, encourage them, support them in any kind of way. And we have stayed in touch with Shlomi ever since. And if you haven't heard by now, we actually have come alongside him in two significant ways. And in just a moment, I'm going to bring him on and we're going to have a conversation that I think you're going to want to hear. Asking him some really direct and what others might not have wanted to answer the questions I'm going to ask him, but he was no questions are off limits. So hang in there with me. I'm going to finish telling you our connection with him, even as Restore Seven. So, some generous donations were given through many of you, and we were able to distribute those to Shlomi and some others there that are just trying to do life in the midst of war. And because his career is completely intertwined with tourism, and that has come to a complete halt, no end in sight at the moment, he's a good provider for his family. And he said, rather than just taking a handout from you guys, which I'm grateful for, I would like to see if I can add value to, the audience that walks with you guys. And so, we came up with an idea between us. And one of the things that he is working faithfully on in the background right now is a virtual tour that is going to be eventually published on Restore 7 TV. And we thought, for those of you that might not ever get the opportunity to go to Israel, this would be a great way for you to get led by an actual Israeli guide there from Israel. And so he's working on that. He's got several episodes already under his belt that we're working on editing. It's going to be really very unique experience for people to be able to watch on Restore 7 TV. And so another thing that he is doing is he's launched a Proteon, see, we'll find out if I'm saying that right, channel where you can subscribe and get some content from him and actually have various times with him where you can hear him teach and ask questions and interact. I like to think of it as like your own personal connection to Israel. And, as followers of Jesus, we have this love affair with the Holy Land, and questions that come up, even as you're reading scripture, in your own time with God. There may be things that come up where I wonder the story behind this, or how far was it from here to there? And then we've got actual current events happening in the land that we love with the people that we love. And to be able to ask those direct questions of somebody who actually lives there and who is an expert and continually becoming a better expert on things of historical value and biblical value there. So we're excited to kind of introduce Shlomi to you as a personal connection that you can also have. He'll tell you more about how you can get involved in that at the end of our conversation here today, but let's welcome Shlomi.
Hello,
Hi.
hello, hello, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for having me. I got to hear this beautiful introduction, so I'm hoping that I will live up to the to all the this this promising introduction.
Well, it's good to see your face, and I guess it's morning here and late afternoon for you there, right? Y'all are
Yeah,
about it.
it's we just finished with dinner. Me, my wife, and 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old daughter
I got
of
to meet
mine.
her, and she is just absolutely beautiful, like her mama. Well, I would love for you just to start by introducing yourself, kind of a little overview of who you are, where you come from, and what you do.
Right. So I'm almost 40. Everybody keep telling me that I don't look 30, so
No,
it's always a compliment. But I am literally celebrating my 40th birthday in like a month and a half, so it's gonna be pretty much in the middle of April. I was born in Israel, in a place that it's not too far from Tel Aviv, so the center of Israel. A lot of Israelis call the area around Tel Aviv the center of Israel. Um, I
are you
grew
able
up.
to show us on the map behind you?
Yeah. So Tel Aviv is this area. So just a little bit to the east, 20 to 40 minutes east from Tel Aviv. So that's the Mediterranean over here. That's the Dead Sea over here. And that's the Sea of Galilee up there. Tel Aviv is in the middle of the shoreline of Israel. And Petah Tikva, the place that nobody knows if they don't live in Israel, it's just 20 minutes, 40 minutes east to Tel Aviv. So basically the metropolitan of Tel Aviv.
How close are you guys to the beach?
20 to 40 minutes depends on traffic. Could be more, really. Traffic could be horrible sometimes,
Yeah.
but basically that's how far. Like in the middle of the night you can do it in 2 3 in the morning you can do it in 20 minutes. That's how far we are.
Such a beautiful area. Wow.
Yes, yes. We have a lot of sunny days in Israel, not a lot of rain, not a lot of winter. So mostly that's mostly what we get. And people complain about this miserable winter that we have here, and I find it very funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I grew up in a Jewish family. There's so many ways of being Jew, just the same as there's so many ways of being Christian or a believer. So we called ourselves traditional Jews, and that means that you Friday night when you have like the celebrative meal of Shabbat, getting ready for Shabbat, Sabbath, whatever, however you want to pronounce it, and you do all the prayers and the singing, and after we were done with that, we turned on the TV. Or later on, when I grew up as a teenager, I went out with friends to with a car, obviously, to Tel Aviv. And someone that observes the Shabbat, the Sabbath, and supposedly fulfilling all the commandments of God, he's not supposed to do that. But I'm just giving you an idea of what is a traditional Jew. And when we came to the age of serving in the army, I have 3 sisters. Two of them are very close to my age. So I'm about to be 40. The second one is about to be 39. The third one is about to be 38. So there was a time that the three of us served in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, simultaneously. That
Wow.
was crazy. Just I was at the end of my service, and the young one was at her beginning. The three of us were serving in the army. So the oldest among the three, she started getting really interested and intrigued by learning about Judaism, going back to the roots. And eventually she went through a process known as to get back to the roots, get back with an answer. And she influenced some of the other members of the family. So basically, I have 3 sisters that are today are ultra Orthodox Jews.
Oh,
Basically,
wow.
they're their husbands, their kids, and everything.
Mhm.
And I thought I'm going to be one as well. But then I went to a tour guiding course in 2013, and for the first time in my life, I read the New Testament, because the New Testament is not part of the Jewish
Right.
Bible.
Mhm.
And when I brought it for the first time home, my sisters were like, "What is this? This is not allowed. It's
Right.
what's the word? Well, I forgot the word. Blasphemy. It's blasphemy." I'm like, "Hey, this is my chores as part of my learning as a tour guide. So just let it be. It's happening. This is happening. I'm reading this." And I learned about Christianity, about Islam. I went back and read the Old Testament. Um, um, learning about other religious, the process of how the Jewish different denominations came to be. Jewish closet book, we call it, because
Mm.
for Jews, um, we have the written Torah, which
Mhm.
is the book that you're familiar with, basically the Old Testament,
Mhm.
and we have the oral Torah. And
Mm.
for Jews, or at least for the believers, the Torah is only complete with those two parts together. So that's a big part of it. Anyway, what I was trying to say, so I thought I'm going to be religious.
Mhm.
And then I started leading a lot of tours with Christians, just like the groups that you brought here to Israel. And I went through a personal process, and I'm in a place today that I don't have all the exclamation marks. I have some question marks and things I'm not sure about, things I'm still learning about or investigating. But to me, today, Jesus, which most Israelis, most Jews, or at least most Jews in Israel are ignorant about, is a fascinating character. I'm like, you can ask me, is he the son of God? Did he walk on water? I don't know. I don't, but I know he was an incredible person with in beautiful values, an amazing leader, um, charismatic. And there's still things I don't know. Sometimes I get really emotional in tours.
Mm.
I start tearing, and I don't even really know why. And there are things that are happening within my body, or within between me and my wife, and it's just doesn't really have an explanation to it. So that's about like how I grew up as far as my religious perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with your family, there's just kind of a mutual respect, like they know you're a tour guide and they're okay with the fact that you're not as not as thorough in your Jewish traditions as they are, or is that a point of difficulty in your relationship with your family?
Well, that's been going on for so many years now,
Yeah,
that you know how it is. You've been married to Johnny for how long?
35 years.
35 years. So you know that there's a lot of different points where you hit certain barriers. When you pass them, then the ocean is like a little more quiet than usually. And that's
Mm,
exactly what happened with my family. So the Friday night meals, when we gathered together, the entire family,
yeah.
when it was at the beginning of the process that my sister went through, there was
Hmm.
a lot of serious struggles. And then again, a lot of serious struggles came when I was going through my school for being a tour guide,
Yeah.
and also leading tours. So
Yeah.
you run into like new information, and I'm like, hey, did you know that this, and suddenly you come to them. You know, I always tell people when we are touring in Israel, I tell them, I hear a lot of pastors or spiritual leaders who gives teaching in front of a crowd in Israel, and in many cases I see them or I hear them kind of being sarcastic or even mocking
Mm.
different people that are mentioned in the New Testament. People that, for example, if you remember the miracle in Bethesda, when Jesus cured the blind man, right? And a lot of people ask him, "Is it you? Is it not you?" And like, and the pastors, I hear them like they're making fun of those people. And I saw it from a close angle. Just
Mm.
imagine you have a certain faith, a certain belief your
Yeah.
entire life. You're
Right.
30, you're 40, you're 50, and suddenly someone comes and show you a whole different way, or is shaking your very cores of beliefs and what you knew your entire life. How will you accept it? I mean, if your faith is really strong, then you'll be empathetic. But if it touches you, if
Yeah.
it's is shaking your belief, you'll get angry, you'll get mad, you might even be aggressive.
Yeah.
So I believe that those people that people usually in their teachings they're making fun of probably became like really strong believers. And the
Hmm.
point being is that I found myself in different situation with my sisters,
Sure.
with the information that I required. I tell them, hey, but did this and this and this, did you know that? And they're like, oh, because they were surprised from
Hmm.
the knowledge that I possessed that maybe they didn't, and
Hmm.
maybe it touched them in one way or another.
Hmm.
uh, but basically, it's been like that for many many years. So
And it's like that, I'm sure, all over the world, but no more so than in, we say Jerusalem, but Israel. And I know when Jesus said, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, I mean, it's obvious we need to pray for the peace in terms of war and all the fighting over that piece of geography, piece of land. But there's also peace of, it's kind of this picture of the reality of all of us are in our own process with God, and some of us call him Allah and some of us call him, you know, the God that we know. And it's amazing the patience of God, really, the patience of God while we wrestle with him ultimately over, like, who are you? Who are you
who
really?
are we? Who am
And
I?
who are we to you and all of that.
Yes.
Something that you said, what is it like when you have Christians that come from all over, different nations, and probably a lot from the United States that you lead in tour guides? Are there things that you wish that specifically that Christians knew and understood that would help us not maybe do or say some things that are pretty offensive to either someone like you or someone who's more orthodox in their faith?
Right. I think that, I mean, it's really depends who you're talking to.
Mhm.
When you're talking with someone like me, or people from the tourism industry, or people that are very open-minded, you can basically say whatever you want, and it won't matter. But when you're talking about when you're talking with someone that either ignorant about their faith, the Bible, and everything, or people that are have a very very strong faith, um, you just want to do it delicately, because I've seen arguments in public places.
Wow.
um, for example, people who stand in the Jaffa Gate on their way to the old city of Jerusalem, and there's a group of some Christians, and they will talk about Jesus. But then ultra Orthodox Jews will walk by, and they might get angry and start react, and it could escalate.
Yeah.
So one of the things I always ask myself in this kind of situation is, I mean, I understand that people want to lead others to a certain faith or a certain understanding. That's mission. That's being a missionary. That's fine. But does the old ways of talking in public areas still works? I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure it does. I mean, I cannot imagine myself walking in the street hearing someone that is like, usually they're very jealous, you
Yeah.
know, zealots, like
Yeah.
people, and I'll be like, oh yes, you know what? Yes, he touched me. It's hard for me to see
Yeah.
it.
Right.
So So maybe it's not the best idea to do it. It's not really does any good.
Yeah.
Every type of communication that I'm thinking about in my life, when I communicate,
Mm-hmm.
I try to think, what does it give? What
Mm-hmm.
does it has any benefit? Because
Yeah.
if I'm just talking just to talk and it doesn't do anything, just to be right, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be the right person in the argument, to be the winner in the argument. I want to say the smart thing, the words that will lead to a resolution, or to an
Yeah.
understanding, or to a healthy conversation. And
Yeah.
I have a really, really good conversation with my travelers and the people that are following the content that I'm providing these days.
Yeah.
So the communication is really good. The only times that I feel a little, and it's just a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
if you have a person that it's like zealot, and they will try to talk to you, but almost aggressively,
Yeah.
you
Like
probably
they
know
have
what
an
I'm talking about.
agenda. Like there's an agenda. Like
And they're
I'm
trying
on a
to
mission rather than
like
just interacting
force
with
it
you as a
on you.
person. Yeah.
So yeah, I think you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And that's good. So here's a question that I would love for you to answer. I guess this is probably where your personal journey with God kind of collides with your career as a tour guide. But even a lot of Christians have a hard time believing that, I know this sounds crazy, but that Jesus really was a person, like provable a person. I want to know how you know for sure that Jesus lived and was on the earth. And I think I could answer it because I've learned from some really great tour guides like you, but you would answer it better than me.
Right. First of all, there are historical documents that are not part of the Bible that are mentioning Jesus. Talking about Jesus, talking about the man. So whether he was the Son of God or not, um, I'm putting that aside for a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no doubt he was around.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt that he existed. It's funny because I talked with this person that was in the airport not too long ago, and there is a new painting in the airport with a bunch of different characters from Jewish history. And he saw people from like modern history and people from biblical times, different characters. And he was asking himself, but where is the most famous Jewish in the world, in the history of mankind? And obviously, it's people need to understand that, and you can maybe separate it between Jews from different places in the world to Jews that live in Israel. So
Mm-hmm.
especially Jews that live in Israel, that
Mm-hmm.
in most cases do not live around Christians,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't teach us nothing at school about Jesus, that the New Testament is not part of our Bible, that it's even considered blasphemy to read from the New Testament or to learn about Jesus. So the only thing people would know is just hearing a word about it, or
Mm-hmm.
seeing something about Jesus in an American movie, which
Mm-hmm.
is nothing. So um, I lost track of what exactly you're asking me,
You were
but
talking about the painting at the airport, and they noticed that Jesus, I guess, one of
it
the
wasn't
most
there.
famous Jews, wasn't there.
Yeah, there is a painting of a guy holding a baby in the temple in Jerusalem, and
Ah,
and people suggest that this is a hint of basically that's Jesus the baby,
yeah,
but there's no certainty on that. People that are putting something like that in the Israeli airport, I guess there will be a little bit concerned to put Jesus in the front, and
sure,
everybody will recognize that it's Jesus. I mean, that
sure,
could cause problems. So
sure.
maybe something like a hint of Jesus
Yeah.
could work better. I don't know. I just found it
So,
interesting.
so you're personally convinced that Jesus was a real man, a real
Yes,
Jew that lived, and
definitely.
there is someone who leads people through these biblical sites. For people that have never been to Israel, like, you know, I remember when we first started taking tours there, and I realized, oh, some of these guides are telling us what we want to hear, which is,
Oh,
this is
no,
exactly where this happened, and this is exactly where Jesus stood.
no.
And then I started asking, I would pull them aside and say, I mean, really? Like, don't tell us what you think we want to hear, because we want the truth, you know. And so,
Right,
especially Hillel, he started very happily telling us the truth of, well, here's why they think it could be maybe here or over here or over here. And so what is that like for you? Like, knowing that you've got the other historical documents and the Bible that speak of Jesus and other, biblical characters, biblical figures, historical figures. And you're like, this is where you actually live and walk and work. And you get to see, like, believers from all over the world kind of come alive to that reality right there in front of you.
right.
What's
So
that like?
you know that first of all, you're right. I have no doubt that I still see. I hope that it's becoming a lesser and a lesser. I don't know if you can hear, but there's a really strong rain at the moment, so maybe you can hear
I
it.
hear a little bit. Yeah.
Um, it's become. I hope it's becoming a lesser phenomenon than what it used to be. But yeah, there are some tour guides who may be telling their travelers what they want to hear,
Sure.
especially, and no offense to anyone here that is watching, especially if they're Catholics or
Sure.
Orthodox.
Yeah.
Uh, but people who take themselves seriously, and I consider myself as one that does, I see myself as developing my expertise with working with Protestants and evangelicals,
Yeah.
and that's a different. It's a completely different than guiding Catholics, for example.
Yeah.
Um, and everyone who takes themselves seriously, they want to take all those historical documents, the scriptures, archaeological findings, excavations, and do and find the right mixture of finding the truth, or
Yeah.
be as close to the truth as we can.
Yeah.
That's and we even have this division of different sites, biblical sites. So I don't know if you ever heard of it, but there's type A. Type A, it means that we know this is the place. It matches geographically, historically, according to the scriptures. Everything matches. There's no doubt that this is the place. An
Mm-hmm.
example for a place that is a type A is the city of David in Jerusalem. There is no doubt that this was the city that King David conquered from the Jebusites.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's type A. There's places that we know it's the place, but we don't know if they got the exact spot, for example, where the cross stood.
Right.
So we know where Jesus was buried, rose, was crucified, buried, and then rose from. We don't know if Helen the Queen, almost 2,000 years ago, got the exact spot where the cross stood. And there are some places that we know it's a complete nonsense, that it's like it doesn't make sense historically, geographically, but it's usually places that became holy, and
Yeah.
usually you would find churches there that was established by the Byzantines or the Crusaders.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to elaborate who are the Crusaders and the Byzantines for those of you who don't know yet. But basically, Christians from 1,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago that established different places, determining, okay, this is where King David was buried. Okay, this is where the rooster called to Peter 3 times, or things like that, and it's completely out of the way.
It's so fascinating, even especially as an American, to hear these kinds of talks and teaching when we go there, but also just interacting with you now, because our country is so young. It's so young compared to the kind of history that you live in the midst of. And it takes us a while, I think, even as Americans, to expand our ability to even think that big, in historical terms and ancient terms, and it feel as real to us. And I think that's why it's so impacting for believers to go, Christians to go to Israel, because all of a sudden things that we have just chosen to accept purely by faith just comes alive, and you can't deny, like, you're literally on the Sea of Galilee, like where historically things happen. And it's the same sea. So for you, how did you become interested? I guess you left the army and went into tour guide.
No,
Training?
not right away. Well, I am 40. There's a gap between.
Yeah.
I've been a
Okay.
tour guide for about 10 years now.
Okay.
And after I finished my duty, I was able to. Oh, by the way, big news just came to my mind. Me, my wife, and my daughter. Oh, not my daughter. I mean, me and my wife spent the morning in the United States Embassy, in the American Embassy in Tel Aviv today, and we got approved for
No
visa.
way. Oh,
Yes,
that's
yes.
so exciting.
They're
Ah,
keeping our passports. They're gonna put the visas, and they're gonna send it by mail.
we've
So
been we've been inviting you since we met you, so I think that we're getting one step closer for a visit.
yes, we're gonna think about how to when and how and for how long, and set a goal and everything, because everything gotta have a goal, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
Oh,
after
that's
I
great
finished,
news.
yes, I was happy. So after I finished my duty, I was able to arrange some kind of a temporary working visa. I was very young back then, hungry for money, hungry for adventures. And I've been in the States eventually. I thought about that I'm going to go for like 4, 8 months, but I came back after 3.5 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
then, yeah. And then I went to a very dull and gray profession. I actually spent almost 4 years in the insurance industry.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah, you see, you find out new things all the time. So
I-
as I was working there, I remember this one conversation I had with a person, and he said, "Hey, listen, even if I'll get a salary of 20,000 shekels a month, and including a car and a phone. Back then, the phone was very expensive, phone bills. I won't agree to do what you do." I said, "Okay, why? What do you do?" And then he told me about the tour guiding school. I never heard about it. I never thought about it. We didn't do a lot of traveling as a family as I was growing up. I didn't spend any kind of time in like youth movements or things like that. That a lot of tour guides, they have background, like they grew up in like a environment of traveling or tours or knowledge.
Hmm.
I When I came to tour guiding school, it's 600 academic hours and 82 different tours in Israel. I was like,
Wow. Wow.
like you go to places, many places that you don't know, and you go to places that you do know, but all learning all these important things about the places.
Wow.
Okay, I've been here, but I never heard this here. It's
Wow.
like, um,
You got to see what it's like for those of us that come there.
yes, because I came in Hebrew. I don't know. We have something we call, I came tabula rasa, meaning like a clean page, like
Uh-huh.
a blank page.
Yep.
And for me, it was fascinating, and I still enjoy it and love it. It's not easy to learn,
Yeah.
especially if you have like learning disabilities like I do.
Do
Uh,
you?
yeah, like like what's it called when you lose your attention, or it's hard to
ADHD.
ADHD,
Yeah.
that kind of things. Um, I just gotta work harder than
Yeah.
others, maybe, to
Yeah.
learn something. That's all.
Yeah.
Uh,
I,
but
I
but
got I
but
got a bit
but
of
I
that
manage.
myself.
I can do it. I do it. I've been doing it, and I'll keep doing it. I'm finding my ways.
Well,
Um,
and even in what we've been working on with you, it's been fun to watch you kind of rise to the challenge, and you've been like, I've never done stuff online before, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to learn it, and you've done it. Okay, so another question about your career.
Right.
Um, how long did it take you to complete the 600 hours and the 82 tours?
Well, it's usually around the 2 years, but
Oh,
then you
wow.
have exams. Wow, you don't even want to know. It's like you have a written exam. It's like 4 hours, and
Yeah.
then if you don't pass the exam, you cannot go again for 6 months. And then after you pass the written exam, there's an oral exam, which is super stressful because it's in the Ministry of Tourism offices in Jerusalem, and you have like five people sitting there, and you come there. Four of them are like top tour guides in the field. One of them is an agent, and then you come there and you give them a lecture. They stop you in the middle, and then they can ask you anything they can think of that
Wow.
has to do with Israel, with any subject that you might think. So it's geology,
Wow.
history, geography, religious in Israel, whatever, everything.
Wow.
It's just nuts,
So
nuts.
you not only have to sound interesting, but you have to be correct. You have to be accurate.
Yeah, I was, a lot of people end up without the certificate of the
Mhm.
tour guides. They go through the school, but they get stuck without it because
Ah,
it's only enough for you not to pass one exam or two. And it's like, it's hard to stay in the cycle. But I was so determined. I said to myself, there's going to be only one exam for me. One. And I
wow.
was drinking coffee. And then there's, I don't do it today, but you have those pills that helps you. Usually they give them to kids to concentrate.
Yeah, yeah.
So I used to do those at that time
Amazing. You
because it
did it.
was so much. It was so much. It was so much
Well,
to
now
learn.
you can tell it just comes so natural for you. And, it's clearly like a calling that's on your life. And I know a lot of people have told you that probably through the last years of touring, but clearly you are in your sweet spot doing some of what God really created you to do. And it makes a huge difference in a lot of people's lives that come from the US and all over the world. So do you have a favorite biblical figure, historical figure, and a favorite location that you like to show people or go to yourself?
Right. So I'm gonna start with the location.
Okay.
So the first thing that comes to mind is maybe Caesarea, because it's very fascinating as far as the archaeology, a Roman city from the time of Jesus, or maybe you're thinking about the city of David or the old city of Jerusalem. But actually, the site that I kind of locked in my mind as one of my favorites is a place that most tours usually don't go to. Since you come in usually to a week and a half or a week and a half, you don't have time to cover
Mhm.
everything in Israel. But
True.
I don't know if you remember, does the name Lachish ring any bell to you?
No.
Lachish. So in 2 Kings 18, 2 Kings 18, we hear about Sanherib, the Assyrian, that is conquering cities in Judea,
Mhm.
and one of them is Lachish. Now,
Ah,
why is Lachish is so unique in my perspective? I don't know if you heard, but some people are claiming that the Bible never happened.
yeah,
Bible denials, right?
right.
So Lachish is one of my favorite places because you actually have four different things that are proving that the battle in Lachish happened. So
Oh,
you have the scriptures, you have something that is called, give me 1 second, I just da, da, it's known as Sennacherib's Annals. So Sennacherib Annals, and it's basically like uh, three pieces of stone, prism, in the shape of prism, that were found from the time of the Syrian king Sancherib. And he's writing, there's writings on it. So it's basically like a historical document. And he's describing his battle against Hezekiah and the city of Lachish.
Whoa.
And then you have the site itself, which they built a dirt ramp, an Assyrian dirt ramp. It's all proven, by the way, archaeologically proven. And you have Assyrian arrowheads and Jewish arrowheads. And so I said 1, 2, 3. What else did I leave out? Something else? And another thing. In the north of Iraq, there in Nineveh, which you pronounce
Nineveh.
Yeah, there is the remnants of the palace. There are embossments that are describing the battle of Lachish.
Wow.
So when you have like this, like, there's no way. I want to see that smarty pants that tell me that it never happened.
Yeah.
Arguing with that.
Yeah.
So so
very
Lachish.
Cool. And how far is that from where you live? About?
I think an hour.
Okay.
An hour and a half. Yeah, Israel is very small.
Yeah.
Not that big.
So, favorite biblical figure?
I have to go with Solomon.
Oh, yeah.
The wisest of all men.
Yeah.
And it's my name. My name is Shlomi. In my ID, it says Shlomo, Shlomo. And nobody called Solomon Solomon. His name was Shlomo. That was his name. The only reason, and by the way, this is a concept that you can throw to all the names of people and places in the English Bible. They're all mispronounced because when it was translated from Hebrew for the first time, it was translated to Greek. And there's some letters in Greek that doesn't have those specific sounds. So the sound sh that starts the word Shlomo or Shlomi does not exist in Greek. So that's why it became Solomon. But his name was Shlomo, which is part of that word is shalom. You know the word shalom?
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
Because in his time, there were wars all through all the reign of Saul and through all the reign of David, but it was peaceful at the time of Solomon or Shlomo. Wow. That's why it's like it's a name that came subsequently after the events, or at least that's how most of the interpreters see it.
Very
because when you read the moment that he was born, it says she named him Shlomo, and they named him Jedidiah, which is a friend of God. And the problem is that towards the end of his day, he was sinful, and he was building altars and approaching other gods because of all the women that were the foreign women that were around him. So it came to the mind of most of the interpreters that the name Jedidiah, a friend of God, is not the right name for Shlomo, for Solomon. But Shlomo is a good name for him because there was peace in his time.
Yeah. Wow, that is fascinating. I did not know that connection. Wow. Okay, I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions related to current events in your beautiful nation, and then we want to give you an opportunity to tell people how they can stay connected to you. So, first question, what is it like right now for you guys there since October 7th? I know initially y'all were pretty locked down, and now you can move about a bit. And how far are you personally from danger areas and Gaza?
Right. Since you said it's a good idea to use the map behind us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can still hear me because I'm holding the microphone.
Yep.
This is the Gaza Strip over here. Okay. So everything that was really dangerous was mostly around the Gaza Strip. Okay. We call it the Gaza envelope. and I live in this area over here.
Yeah.
So people was very fearful at the beginning, but we're pretty far from most of the trouble.
And
Most
for reference sake, it would take you how long if there was no traffic? How long would it take you to drive
to
to
the Gaza
that
Strip,
area? Yeah.
probably 2 hours,
Okay.
around 2 hours. So it was very shocking and depressing at the beginning to me.
Mm.
And I in this kind of situation, I see myself as either I'm guiding and talking with people about it and giving them my value and knowledge and perspective, or I go to war as a soldier, because that's me, either that or that. I didn't see other option. Now since I'm 40 and they released me from my reserve service about a year ago, it wasn't this. It wasn't an option, and
Got
all
it.
the tours were canceled. So it took me a few days to get myself together, and then I contacted you, and we started with this initiative and project of creating content, and it's amazing because we went through some serious challenges, mostly technical challenges, but I believe in doing this because that way, instead of looking back after this crisis and say, okay, I made it through or I barely survived it, I want to look back to this crisis and say, I turned, or with the help of others, we turned this crisis into an opportunity.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm
Absolutely.
hoping that I will see when I look back
Yeah.
at this war. Did that answer the question of?
Yeah, definitely. And so, we're so far
If
away
you want,
from
I can
this.
say a few words about the Israeli society today.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that. And we unfortunately have media that doesn't give us a true correct picture. And so I think a lot of people are even afraid at this stage to show a lot of public support for Israel because there's so much out there about the innocent people in Gaza that weren't terrorists, that this is taking too long, all of that. So the people that I know, it's like we're all trying to just stay as not neutral, but stay like compassionate for anyone and everyone in the situation, knowing that we don't really have access to the full picture. And I'm not saying that you know exactly yourself, even everything that's going on, but from your perspective, where are we at right now with the war that's going on against Hamas and other terrorists?
So you can come and say hi.
Hello. Oh, hello. Yay, we finally get to meet. Thank you for sharing your husband with us.
Look at her. You told me look at the camera. Look at the camera. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for believing in us and supporting us. It really saved us. I don't know what we would do without your support and the ideas and the generosity. Thank you.
That means so much that we could make a difference. You feel so helpless being this far away, and coming and being a part of your nation in different ways has changed us forever. And so you feel like you want to just give back in some way. So I think I speak for a lot of people that we care, and we're glad that your family is doing well in the midst of this. And even though it's not normal life for you, you're still moving forward with your beautiful daughter. And so thanks for saying hi.
Sure. Good luck.
So, first of all, I think I can totally. I'm talking with you, and I'm talking with some other American friends. And first of all, I want to say that I totally understand, and I can totally relate to being in a place that is very, very hard to support, or at least publicly, Israel. It's completely makes sense. Um, First of all, I want to say that even though I am Jewish and I am Israeli, and people that are watching this might expect me to show, like, to be very decisive and show one-sided support towards Israel, and the Jews are right or the Israelis are right and they are wrong. I will say right here and right now, it's not the situation. And the situation is, the more you know about it, the harder it is to have a decisive opinion. It's not black and white. It's one of those things in life that are not black and white. It's a complicated conflict. If it wasn't a complicated conflict, it wouldn't last so many years. So it's a very complicated conflict. I will say that some of the things influence some of the things that happened in October 7 impact the Israeli society in serious manners. So people that used to be on the left side of the political map, even the radical ones that went to protest against IDF soldiers in checkpoints or something like that, are on a completely different side after what they saw at October 7. So this war changed the Israeli society significantly. But I am still with the very minority, and I am a minority today that is talking about the other side as well. It's very, very sad that my wife is giving me a face because we have a disagreement between us.
Sure.
A few days ago, I was at my parents' house, and I was trying to talk with my father and my sister. They were all yelling at me, almost being aggressive, because they couldn't believe that I have an opinion that is like more moderate, a more moderate opinion.
Sure.
And you gotta feel for the innocent people that are dying in the Gaza Strip. You gotta feel, and you're not human, and you don't have like the right values in life if you don't feel sorry and sad for them. On the other angle is what other choice does the Israeli government and the security officials in Israel have? They're fighting against an organization that doesn't care about sacrificing their civilians. They're actually intend on sacrificing their civilians. They are relying on the international opinion to go against Israel and to create pressure of Israel to stop. It's their goal to raise anti-Semitism and hate towards the Jews. Now, what I would suggest to the average American Christian who feels hopeless in this situation, if they care and if they have the time first to learn more about it, because it is a complicated conflict, but the simplest drill is to imagine, but really take the time to really think that what if this would have happened in the States? What if you had a certain area in the States? Let's call it, whatever. It doesn't matter. And there's a group of 5 million people over there. Let's say that they're not citizens of the states, but the United States is in charge of them, or is managing this area. And they hate most of them hate the Americans, and they want to kill Americans. And suddenly they have an attack and they kill 1,400 Americans, or maybe in American proportions, since you have a lot more people, maybe a lot more. I mean,
Yeah.
I can only imagine
Right.
what the American authorities will do. Because
Right.
Americans, when they have someone messing up with an American citizens, they go bad.
Yeah.
Like when I mean bad, like they're like, they will crush
Yeah.
everything on their way. And
Right.
it makes sense. I think this is a good approach of a country. And so you don't have a choice. You gotta eliminate Hamas. You gotta eliminate Hamas because it's a terror organization that wants to destroy us. And what's gonna happen after? I do not know. And the fact that it's taking so long, you know, it's I know I'm guessing that it would be the same in an American perspective, but in an Israeli perspective, every
Mhm.
life of every person counts as thousands. So they don't want to lose even one soldier. So
Yeah.
they're trying to do the war with patience and in ways that not even one soldier would die. Of
Yeah.
course, dozens of soldiers died since the war began, but they're doing everything they can to avoid it. And unfortunately, the ways of Hamas and their leadership and the way this war is manifested leads to situations that numerous Palestinians, I'm guessing that most of them innocent, are dying, and this is sad. And I wish it wasn't like that.
Would
And
you
it's hard.
say that, I mean, all of those Palestinians have been raised from very young to be indoctrinated by Hamas to think a certain way about Israelis and specifically Jews. And so even though they're innocent, they still have an ideology that doesn't work well with being just gently brought into Israeli society. It's so complicated, as you said. And from my understanding, there was significant time, especially in the beginning, for them to leave and go to other nations. Is that true, or am I misunderstanding that? I mean, I
I
don't
think
understand why the Muslim nations haven't absorbed whoever they could into their nations, to help the situation for the people that are innocent.
it's a good question, and I think I don't think that there's a lot of people who can answer that question and be like completely honest about it. But I think that they just don't want them. The other Arab nations and other nations in general, they don't want the Palestinians. It's not a nice thing to say, but that's the truth. Otherwise, a lot of them would have leave to those places who are willing to take them.
Yeah.
But it's not the case. And the Arab world is so complicated. And everything that's happened in Israel is connected directly to the states, whether if people in the states are aware of that
Yeah.
or not. I mean, eventually Hamas is a puppet of Iran.
Yeah.
Israel is a friend of the states. So this is like this is two different sides of a coin
Yeah.
that are, and maybe you can put Russia in there, and
It's
there's
very
so much,
complicated.
there's so much to it.
Because
This
then
is
even when you talk about the United States, from our perspective, you're like, are you talking about our leaders that are good? Or are you talking about our deep state leaders? It is so complicated. Okay, quick question, and then I would love for you to, I don't mind leaving these things with giant question marks. I mean, because it speaks into the place where we find ourselves as a generation right now, where it is so complicated and complex. Literally, only God can help us unravel and solve so many of these huge problems. It speaks to the need that humanity has um, for a supernatural intervention from God, really, and for us to prepare our hearts to say, like, we've tried it our way, and man is doing the best that we can, but there's so much evil. It's historically throughout all of the Bible stories, you see how God had to intervene, and he waited until people's hearts shifted enough to say, we make room for you, and anyway, so my last little question related to all of this is, um in in the beginning, when we heard, Israel has been known for having the tightest security in and out, and the thought that this could happen there, and it's been months
Rising.
now. Yeah, the surprise attack, the invasion. Are you personally, like, satisfied with what y'all have been told, or do you feel like there's more that hopefully will come out in the future as to why it was able to happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's like almost in every significant uh, historical event, especially if it's modern
Mhm.
history,
Yeah.
there is always what we would consider as conspiracies, right?
Mhm.
That other forces was involved. I watched a guy that show a presentation of a few hours and proving. I'm saying proving because I didn't see any solid proof that you can say, hey, that has to be true. But
Yeah.
he proved that Israel, the Israeli government, and even the United States were involved within this attack.
Mm.
I don't think it's true, but there's all kind of concepts and ideas. But I will say this: I do know and understand today that everything that happens in the world, of course, first of all, as a believer, comes from God, but also there is maybe His messengers or whatever, really, really strong and wealthy people in the world that making the decisions that are leading to different wars or different decisions by different countries, and it's all like feeding each other, and everything
Mhm.
had an interest behind it.
Yeah.
So there is a reason the people in Gaza really hate Israelis. Someone is funding their school and their curriculum in a very specific manner, and
Mhm.
someone is benefiting from this hate. Someone is benefiting from
Right.
the death of the Palestinians that are dying.
Right.
They don't care.
Yeah.
It serves their interest, and the little guys, they suffer.
Yeah.
Palestinians, Israelis.
Yeah.
It's just sad. And yeah, you're right. It's probably gonna take God interference to.
Bring exposure, bring things like that to the light. Who's pulling the puppet strings? Who's funding their agendas? What are their agendas? All of it. I feel hopeful. I feel like we are living in a time where, more than any previous generation in hundreds of years, we are going to see exposure of all of this like never before. And what do they say? It gets darkest right before the light. So I'm praying and believing that. Well, we could talk about so many other things, but I love leaving people hungry so that they will want to stay connected with you. And you are a Solomon. You are one who has a lot of wisdom, and
Whoa.
and I think that it's wisdom that we can learn from. And I love that you know what you know, but you also know what you don't know. And it's always fun to talk to somebody who is in that place of saying, here's what I think, and here's what I know, and here's where I'm in the process. And I've got, question marks instead of exclamation marks, which is what you've said. And so I can respect that. Tell our audience how they can stay connected with you.
Right. So basically, You talked about the virtual tour program that we're gonna upload to Restore 7 app.
Mhm.
Or
Restore 7
maybe,
TV.
yeah, we're probably about around halfway through, or maybe a little less than halfway through of preparing the episodes, and then there's some editing. And on besides that, we have the Patreon page.
Mhm.
Patreon, that's how you pronounce it. It's confusing,
Patreon.
I know.
Okay.
it's confusing. And basically, it's easy to find it. Just Holyland.Community, and then you're gonna end up at the website, and you can easily access the Patreon page from there. The idea is to provide, in the simplest way, I will just say, an eye-opening content about the Holy Land. The
Mhm.
idea is to to provide the extras that are normally not accessible from your surrounding. If you are, even if you're a believer, even if you go to teachings of a certain pastor, or a spiritual leader, because there's a lot of things that you miss out, or doesn't have a complete picture, since you're not reading the text in its original context. And there's a lot of things that are clearing up. So that's one example. To
Awesome.
understand the historical connection and the cultures is also another impact. To understand the sites, the different sites, to be in those places. And by the way, what part of what we're doing is actually to we're using internet tools, Google Earth, to literally go to those places
So
virtually,
cool. Yeah.
virtually,
Yep.
and see those places almost like you're there. And it helps a lot, because when you're talking, you're talking about the city of David, and you're at the roof of one of those the highest building there at the city of David, and you're trying to imagine the story of David looking at Bathsheba, but you're doing it from there. It gives you a whole
Yeah.
different perspective. Um,
Very
and
cool.
yeah, and
So So if they want to participate and learn from some of the things you're teaching, they can go to Holyland.Community and
yes,
they can subscribe to your channel, which is a really easy process.
right,
And it also, I just want to encourage you guys because, you know, there are ways that we can support people like Shlomi that are there from a distance and be a blessing, to our Jewish brothers and sisters. And this is a real practical way of helping him and his wife and his daughter by subscribing for a very small fee monthly. It gives him some consistent income. And it's certainly not the only thing he's doing. It's very expensive to live anywhere in Israel. It's like one of the most expensive places to live, kind of like in
true,
California or New York City, and to have, you know, not very much. And so, anyway, it's a privilege for us to kind of see ways that we can practically support, but also get to hear from you directly. So, how often are you having content on there or doing live episodes, or do you have a live coming up?
So I mean, I just want to emphasize that I don't have a problem with people doing it because they want to help and support,
Yeah.
but I want to emphasize the part that I see it as something that I know for a fact that will be worth your time,
Yeah.
worth your money.
Yeah.
I know that is something that I can provide. I
Yeah.
have this confidence because I've been leading tours for 10 years.
Yeah.
I get feedbacks. I know what the feedbacks stands for, and I know what I've been doing so far since the war began. We went through most of the technical challenges already. We're
Yeah.
behind it now. So and the the goal is to have a major live around an hour, maybe once a week. But at this point, we're doing it every second week, and some other small videos around it. So
I love the video that you had in there recently of you and your wife's Shabbat, and it just felt like we were just sitting there with you guys at the kitchen table, and it's really cool how this really adds so much value and experience for the person on the other side of the camera. So thank you for what you're doing and for this opportunity and the expertise that you bring. And yeah, so I'll put in the description here a link to Holyland.Community. And is there anything else they can do to be a part of connecting with you?
I guess just participate, because when people comment and they ask questions, and they share their opinion, it's sharpening and giving me a better clue of what is really interesting to the people that are signing up and
Awesome.
becoming paying members, basically.
Great.
So participate, take part, and you'll find it very rewarding. This is the response that I'm getting so far, the feedbacks that I'm getting so far. People are very happy. They're enjoying it. They just want more and more. Like that's actually what's happening right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about the good news of your trip to the embassy, and one step closer to coming. And so hopefully one day we can have you here in our home studio and do another episode here in person in Nashville. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Shlomi. Is there anything else you wanted to say to those watching?
God bless you all. Peace, love, happiness. That's what I'm wishing for myself and for you, for all of you who are watching.
Awesome. And we just declare God's continued protection over you and your family, and that you would just feel his true comfort in the midst of the war that you guys are experiencing, and hope for what's next. So thanks again for your time, and we will see you next time.